Hey folks, welcome back to Canada's boxing channel. I managed to play a little golf this morning. Not overly well, but well, at least I got some steps in, right? As you know, on this channel we've talked about lots of things to do with boxing. We've got my personal favorites, which is looking back to the careers of people who were great boxers in the past, sometimes far, far in the past, sometimes, early 1900s we've talked about. We've talked about upcoming fights, we've talked about peripheral people, we've talked about great trainers, we've talked about all sorts of things. One thing I've not talked much about is bare knuckle boxing. And the other thing that I've not talked about much at all is misfits. So I don't really know whether or not it's worthwhile talking about Jake Paul. Jake Paul is not a bare knuckle boxer, and this is sort of misfits-ish. I don't know. Anyways, you let me know in the comments section whether or not it's worth talking about Jake Paul. I'm sure that all the boxing channels will be carrying stories about him and his upcoming fight against Julio Caesar Chavez Jr. For me, rightly or wrongly, I have difficulty taking Jake Paul seriously. I respect the fact that he's trained really well. He's gotten himself into a level of physical fitness, and he's developing some boxing skills. So I respect him for doing that, but the fights he has are in my view, kind of garbage fights. I kind of drew a curtain across the Jake Paul world after that performance with Mike Tyson, which was scripted and sad and kind of it wasn't any kind of boxing that I want to watch, right? I will say that Jake Paul has done absolute marvels with the women's game. And on that card where he fought Mike Tyson, or I don't know how to move around with Mike Tyson, we had Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano, which was a really good fight. I'm not a big women's boxing fan, but they put on a great show. And of course, he's signed other people now. He signed Savannah Marshall recently, amongst others. But when it comes to his own career, I mean, what do you think? He's apparently going to fight Julio Caesar Chavez Jr. at cruiserweight, which is, Julio Caesar Chavez Jr. was a middleweight world champion. Can he get up to 200 pounds? I suppose he can. Can Jake Paul get down to 200 pounds? I suppose he can. Jake Paul was talking about fighting Canelo at 168, but then he was talking about fighting AJ at heavyweight. So I actually don't know what Jake Paul's plan is, other than keeping Jake Paul in the public eye. I mean, if he was serious about his boxing, then he would be campaigning, I assume, at cruiserweight, maybe at heavyweight, and he would be looking with a record of 11-1. Well, I suppose he'd be looking to fight Justice Hooney or Moses Itoma if he was to campaign at heavyweight. People with not dissimilar records. Or Johnny Fisher, if you wanted to drop down a grade. Dave Allen. But of course, that isn't really what Jake Paul wants to do, I don't think. I don't think he wants to be a serious boxer and sort of, go up levels and get beaten. Because every boxer I've named thus far, I would have assumed, given Jake Paul a comprehensive beating. Does he want to compete at cruiserweight? Well, I'm not seeing that happen either. I don't think he wants to fight like a real boxer. Unless somebody gave him a massive world title fight, like he fights Canelo for all the belts, and Canelo thrashes him, but he gets paid so much money that it's worth the thrashing. But as far as fighting Julio Caesar Chavez Jr., who is now 39, has had a number of problems. Certainly hasn't done anything in the boxing ring of any note in recent years. But anyways, Jake Paul and Julio Caesar Chavez Jr. are going to meet at Cruiserweight on June the 28th in the Honda Center, Anaheim, which is, I suppose, quite appropriate, really, because I think that Jake Paul got his start working for Disney in some capacity, and that's where Disneyland is. 10 rounds, pay-per-view, not on Netflix. I had thought that he had this deal with Netflix, and in fact he was digging out Canelo Alvarez for doing something on pay-per-view and not committing to Netflix. So I suppose hypocrisy is one of those words that Jake Paul probably doesn't want to focus on. But anyways, let me know if you think that it's worth talking about Jake Paul and Julio Caesar Chavez Jr., then I will turn my mind to it and I will periodically report out on it. If, on the other hand, you're thinking that this is so sort of far removed from boxing, it's sort of like over there, then we probably don't really have to spend any more time talking about it. I can't say that it's a very interesting matchup to me because it's going to be scripted, and I would imagine that Jake Paul's going to win. He's got another famous name on his record, and then he looks to fight somebody even more famous who can draw more eyeballs into it, and then everybody makes more money, I suppose. Not knocking Jake Paul, like I say, what he's done with his MVP promotions is very good, particularly for the women's game. I'm not thinking that his boxing career is particularly interesting, though. I mean, he's acquiring names of old people who he would not have been able to get into a ring with when they were young. And if he was to fight somebody fringe British level, he would probably get beaten to smithereens. But I'm sure that he's got a business plan. He's a very wealthy young man, and he's a very smart young man. And love him or hate him, I suppose some people are going to buy that pay-per-view. But I think I can make a fairly firm commitment now, May the 15th, that on June the 28th, I will not be watching Jake Paul. Not unless there's a spectacular undercard, in which case I might watch it and then turn off when Jake Paul has his main event. Anyways, please like, please share, please subscribe, and I will see you on the next video. Wherever you are in the world, have yourselves an awesome day. Thanks for watching.